Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm going to do a quick intro of Volt. Volt is a Ruby web framework where your Ruby code runs both on the server and in the client. The client code is compiled to JavaScript using the Opal Ruby to JavaScript compiler. It's a source-to-source compiler, so the resulting JavaScript code looks a lot like the Ruby code. It's very easy to follow things through from the Ruby to the JavaScript. It also has source maps, which in Chrome and Firefox let you debug line by line with the original Ruby code. And its performance is very close to normal JavaScript, but you get all the niceties that Ruby gives you. So here I've gone ahead and installed Volt, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. The Volt new command will do that, and it will create a scaffold for my project and then bundle my gems. And then I'm going to go ahead and cd into the directory and open it for editing. Right out of the box, Volt gives you a project, kind of standard project structure. You'll notice some similarities to a Rails project, gem file, README. Where it's different is if you look in the app folder, Volt apps are built as nested components, we call them. And so out of the box, you get one component called main. You can kind of make others and easily include one component in another. So if we just right out of the box look in our controllers, we get a main controller to start with, and views main, and then main is the first thing that's loaded. So let's go ahead and boot up our server. And then we can go ahead and bring up localhost, and you can see we get kind of this standard project out of the box. So we're going to go ahead and do a sample to-dos app. And one thing you'll notice is that when we hit save, it automatically reloads on the client, which is a really useful behavior. I'm not going to go into all the details. I just kind of want to give an example of what it's like to work in Volt. And then I'll do more videos kind of going into detail. So I'm going to go ahead and create a todos.html file. Volt views are broken up into sections. So here I'll do a title section, call it to-dos, and then a body section, and we'll just add an H1 and then save. And then what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and take our nav. These are called controls. You can see here this control just renders this section down here. I'm going to go ahead and add a to-dos link. And then in my routes, I'm going to go ahead and set up a route for to-dos. Over here, we can click to-dos, and it loads up our to-do list. So right off the bat, what we're going to want is a way that the user can enter the title for a to-do in a form, press enter, and then have it added to the list. So let's just start off with, we'll create the form, and these e- attributes let you bind events. So here we're going to say when the form is submitted, call add to do. And Volt is actually, we use the term controllers, but it's actually more of a model view model framework. And so what that means is that the context for the view is the controller at all times. So in Rails, your controller kind of runs first, sets up all your instance variables, and then that gets passed to the view. In Volt, you're more calling methods on the controller, and the controller persists for the entire lifetime of the view. So here, when this form submits, it's going to go ahead and call this add to do method on the controller. So let's go ahead and we'll make an input. We'll call it to do, And then here we have a text field. And what we're going to want to do is bind this to a collection. So in Volt, there are several different collections. They're sort of a standard way to interact with places you can store data. So the page collection is just a temporary collection on the page. If you refresh manually, it goes away. So on that collection, we're going to create a property called new to do, and we're going to bind it to this field. So if I hit save, you can see that. Currently, you do need to restart when you add routes. That's going to change. The nice thing is under the hood, Volt has this reactive system where any data stored in collections that gets bound to the view will automatically update in all places. So it's basically automatically synced. You can see since these are bound to the same value, these form fields are tied together and they automatically update. So obviously we only want one of these. So we'll go ahead and save that, and then we'll go to our add to-dos. And so what we want to do is whenever this gets called, we're going to create a to-dos sub-collection on the page collection. And we're going to add a hash to it with the name set to page.newTo. So basically when this form submits, it says grab the value out of here and add it as the name property into the to-dos collection. And then the other thing that we're going to want to do is say is clear out new to do. So let me just go ahead and we'll create a table for the to-dos. So we'll say page.todos for each to-do, and we'll say show the name. So now if we hit enter, you can see that it added it to the list and cleared this out. Pretty simple. Again, these are reactive bindings, so they automatically update. When we add something to the list, it automatically adds another one. It's intelligent. It's not redrawing the entire list. It's only adding the necessary DOM nodes as they need to be added. Let's go ahead and make so I can remove items from the list. So I'll do a button with a click event that calls a remove to do method. And we'll go ahead and define that in the controller. And on our collection, we'll just say delete the to do. So now I can hit X and those go away. Very simple. One thing we obviously need with the to-do list is a checkbox to keep the state of whether or not it's been completed. And with checkboxes, we can bind the checked attribute to a collection or to a model. So you can see this. All this did was add a checkbox since we're not using this anywhere. But if we want, we can, for example, say on a class, if the to-do is completed, show the complete, add the complete class. I'll go ahead and save this, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop in some CSS here. In Volt, all your CSS files are automatically loaded along with your JavaScript files by default. So that's something you can change, but it's fairly useful not to have to worry about script tags and requires and things like that. Since in Volt, a lot of the times everything you want have in your component, you're going to want loaded for that specific component. So now, since we have the class in place, you can see that as we check and uncheck these, it automatically toggles that class for us. The benefit here is that since we're storing the state in a central place in our model, that's the authoritative place for that state. All of our views are just declarative, and we don't actually have to write any code to handle that. We can basically just always change the state in the model and then see it reflected. So another thing that we might want to do is have it where you can select one of the to-dos and then have it automatically show that one and then let you make changes, add extra details to it and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more code here. So down here this says if there is a current to-do, and again these methods are getting called in the controller, show its name and then show a text area with a description attribute. So what we want a current to-do method that returns whichever one of these is selected. So first, what do we do when we select something? Well, what we can do is we want to store the index of the selected item. So Vault gives you a params collection, which equates to the parameters in the URL. So we could say set index to the current index within this loop, and then save it. And then now if we go and we click on these, you can see that the index up here changes. So to make things a little more obvious, what we can do is highlight the currently selected one. So we can say the class if params.index, and because these can not be assigned, we'll do this OR syntax. We can say OR 0, and then we'll convert it to an integer because this gets stored as a string. And we can say if that equals index, then we'll show the selected class. So now you can see when we click on these, it automatically changes. Let's go ahead and set a current to-do method. And what we want to do is we want to look up on page, again, params index, look up the current index. So now, whenever one of these is selected, you can see it updates this list down here. I can show it like this, makes it a little easier to see. And we can add some notes, and that'll stick with whichever one's currently selected. So in order to show this real quick, I'm going to show one other thing. So we've been using the page collection, but out of the box, controllers in Volt inherit from this model controller. And so what that lets us do is assign a model to the controller, and then any missing methods on the controller get passed down to the model. So here we could say we want the model to be store. We can go ahead and get rid of the references to page.todos, so it'll be store.todos. We'll have to go in here as well. We'll leave new to-dos on page since that's a temporary value. And then these were loaded in before. So now what we get is a database persisted collection. So we didn't have to do anything special to make this work. It just automatically starts storing in the database. And then the other nice feature is Volt will automatically sync this across multiple clients. So these are two different clients. Volt will keep open a socket connection to the browser and basically push updates to all the models as changes happen. And the nice part is, thanks to the reactivity, I didn't have to write any code to make this work. Because Page and Store and all the other collections have the same API, I can switch between where the data is stored and not need to make any changes. Makes for a really nice experience to build real-time apps. And again, it's really easy. I didn't have to write a lot of code for that. Just a couple other things that we might want to do. We might want to show the number of current to-do items. Again, these are updated automatically. One of the things we might want to do too is have a way to check all of them. So we could say here, this button calls check all. So we could really easily just make a method that when called goes through and sets each of the completeds to true. On that, we also might want to show how many are completed or incompleted. So Volt has Volt collections act like normal arrays, for example. So we could say we can use something like count, which is a built-in Ruby method, to set up complete, completed and incomplete methods. And so that gives us kind of an idea of how many are going to be checked. And then we can check them all off. And then we could do something like show a progress bar for how many of them we've gotten done. And we'll add a %complete method, which takes the number of completed and divides them by the total number of to-dos, multiplies by 100 and rounds, and then we'll put that as the width for the progress bar. And a little CSS animation, and we get this nice animation as things change. Sorry, one other thing that I forgot to show is we talked about how assigning into the params will store in the URL. What's neat is we can also, this goes two ways. So this gives us URLs that we can hit, and the state of the app loads back up where it left off. Along with that, we can also go into our routes and say, do something like this, and then say I want the index to be read. I want the index to be stored in the URL. So here now it gives us this to-do/1, and if we change, you can see it gives us these kind of pretty URLs. So in Volt, our routes are really just ways of mapping in parameters into the URL to make pretty URLs. So that's a real quick intro to Volt. I think hopefully you can see that we're able to build quite a lot of stuff with not very many lines of code, and we kept the overall complexity down. I think the benefit of centralizing your state and then automatically syncing models really comes in handy. In the next video, I'm going to show making a blog with Volt. You'll see how the automatic syncing can save you from needing to build things like REST APIs just for your internal things. Anyway, Volt's still a work in progress, but we're getting pretty close to 1.0. So please check it out. Thanks.